have in the passage and compare it to what we have under option C. The third sentence of the second paragraph, I read, the organization decried the failure of most governments to institute strong alcohol control policies in spite of its heavy toll on society from road accidents, violence, disease, child neglect, and absenteeism at work. The WHO alert on alcohol abuse is timely. The organization's call for prioritization of alcohol control policies has come at a time when governments all over the world need information and support to reduce alcohol consumption. So this is actually the answer, because it is stated in the passage that the excessive intake of alcohol causes certain social ills, which ranges from road accidents, violence, disease, child neglect, and absenteeism at work. And it also states the effort of the government to stop the excessive intake of alcohol. So our final answer is option C. Question 3. Which of the following best describes the tone of the writer in the passage? The tone has to do with how the passage sounds, or what the mood of the author sounds like while you were reading the passage. Option A, reconciliation. Reconciliation in the context actually means to gain by pleasure or to become friendly. It is a means of it's a means of bringing together people who have different opinions. So when you reconcile, you are trying to become friendly. This is not the tone of the passage. The second one, option B, alarming. This actually indicates the tone of the writer in the passage, because the author of the passage is trying to tell us that the rate at which people consume alcohol and its effects on the people and the society at large is alarming. Option C, persuasive. Persuasive has to do with the ability to cause people to do something or to believe something which they would actually not do or believe naturally. So if you are persuasive, or if you are trying to be persuasive, that means you are trying to convince people to believe or to do something. Option D, disillusioned. Disillusioned in the context means to lose faith or to lose trust in someone, and this does not relate with what we have in the passage. So our final answer is option B, which is alarming, and we can relate this to what we have in the passage, because the author of the passage is trying to tell us that the rate at which people drink and the effect of drinking is alarming. Question 4. The expression binge drinking as used in the passage means what? So we have this expression in the passage, binge drinking. Binge actually means doing something for a short period of time. And then when you add this to drinking, it means drinking intermittently, drinking at intervals. So to the options, option A, drinking for a short period. This does not define what the passage is trying to explain. You can actually drink for a short period of time and then not going back to it. But binge drinking connotes drinking intermittently. And when you say intermittently, it means you do something for a while and then go back to it. So we have option B, drinking intermittently. That is our final answer, but we will treat other aspects of the options. Option C, drinking profusely. This does not indicate the meaning of binge drinking. Profusely means strongly, very much. So profusely in this context negates binge drinking. Option D, drinking against medical advice. This does not relate to what binge drinking means. So we have option B as a final answer, drinking intermittently. Question 5. From the passage, it can be deduced that developed countries' attitude towards control of alcohol is. The question has to do with the measures taken by agencies or governments in developed countries to stopping or controlling the excessive intake of alcohol. And according to the passage, we have realized that organizations decry the failure of most governments to to institute strong alcohol policies in spite of its heavy toll on society, from road accidents to other things like violence, diseases, child neglect, and absenteeism at work. So this is actually an effort to stopping the excessive intake of alcohol. Now we'll go to the option and see which of the words in the options relates to the idea communicated in the passage. Option A, compromising. Compromising has to do with reaching agreements or coming together to agree upon an idea. Option B, encouraging. Encouraging is urging someone. The passage does not state that the government is urging or begging or trying to please people who take alcohol. Option C, proactive. Yes, this is true of the passage, because the passage talks about the government and other agencies taking measures or prescribing means of controlling the excessive intake of alcohol by members of the society. Lethargic means lack of energy or interest. The passage does not indicate that developed countries are not interested in the habit of in the people's drinking habits. It indicates that the government is interested in the drinking habit of people, and they are taking measures to ensure that the drinking habit of people is normalized. So our final answer is option C. Passage 2. Under passage 2, we have spaces in which you are to supply the appropriate words, and the appropriate words should be chosen from the provided options. So I read the instruction. The passage below has gaps. Immediately following each gap, 4 options are provided. Choose the most appropriate option for each gap. So here you are going to apply what we discussed in the introduction. And what I'm referring to is that aspect that talks about inserting the appropriate word that has the same class of word, the appropriate word that will suit into the context based on the class of the word. So you are going to choose whatever class that would suit into the gap that has been provided. Now to the passage. We are going to read while we supply answers to the questions. Mr. Ikimi, the headmaster, decided to erect a new domestic science block. He awarded them dash A. Contract, B. Project, C. Assignment, D. Business. In building, it is usually contract that we talk about. We don't talk about projects. Project is to academic. It is actually to building as well, but it depends on the context. So in this context, contract is more appropriate. Assignment is not appropriate in this context because the meaning of assignment is not embedded in building, or the other way around. We can say the meaning, the building context is not embedded in assignment. And then lastly, business. Business has to do with buying and selling, and so we cannot insert business because it does not relate to what we are discussing. So our final answer is option A. He awarded them contracts to a well-known dash. A. Is it an architect, which is option A, designer, engineer, planner? It is an architect that designs the building. If the architect designs the land on which the building will be built, the architect designed the building that will be built on the land, the size of the house, the structure, the shape, and everything about the house will be made by the architect. So our final answer is option A. To a well-known architect who drew up a dash. A. Plan, B. Picture, C. Chart, and D. Program. An architect should always draw a plan and not a picture, not a chart, nor a program, which was sent to the Town Planning Authority for approval. The dash which had been chosen was cleared and dashed. So for question 9, the dash: A. Spot, B. Locality, C. Site, and D. Environment. The most appropriate one is site because In building, you talk about site and not spot, not locality, nor environment. So we continue. The site which had been chosen was cleared and dash. A worker, a mason, an artist, and a plumber. The correct answer is a mason. A mason is actually someone who works with stone or bricks. So here we are talking about building, and so a mason is appropriate in this context because it is a mason that would ensure that the bricks are laid on the site. A mason engaged to start work on laying the foundation of the most important process, which was a mason engaged to start on laying the foundation of which the most important process was pouring the dash. A marble, B concrete, C laterite, and D sand. Here we talk about concrete. Concrete is a mixture of sand and cement. Sand, cement, and stone. So concrete is the appropriate word to be used in this context. Very soon the building took dash. A position, B shape, C place, and D direction. The answer is shape because you are talking about the physical appearance of the house after the mason continues to lay the bricks. So we have very soon the building took shape and the roof was on in no time. The dash, A woodwork, B